So, um, I wanted to take this time. This isn't a video pertaining to just straight ball, supper and cinema, or how you doing. This is just a video I just want to record it real quick, just to express my thoughts, what's going on in my head right now as we deal with another shooting of a unarmed black man at the hands of police. Granted, this was on Sunday. I'm talking about the Jacob Blake situation. If you all don't know what I'm referring to right now, how this, I just want to talk about like how this affected me and how sick and tired I am of just seeing this type of stuff on the news. I'm sick and tired of seeing people that look like me being killed or being shot and paralyzed in Jacob Blake's case, at the hands of people that are supposed to protect us, at the hands of people that, when you are raised and brought up in this world, you are taught that police officers are there to serve and protect you, and that when you are in trouble or in danger, that you go to the police or you go to officials that work in that department just for help. But as I've gotten older and I have experienced like my first experience with like this type of stuff, granted it wasn't at the hands of a police officer, but it just kind of shows the nastiness and just the total no cure for black people in the judicial system came from Trayvon Martin. I remember that was 2012. I was a freshman in high school. I remember when it all happened. I remember everybody talking about it on Twitter. And I specifically remember people arguing the fact that Trayvon Martin deserved to die. And I remember people that I went to school with literally defending that point. And I was confused. And at the time I was like, all right, well, people just have their opinion. But when the instances like that continue to happen throughout my lifetime, from Eric Garner to Sandra Bland to Philando Castile to Walter Scott to Breonna Taylor now in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, George Floyd, which kicked off this Black Lives Matter movement to be put up on the more forefront of media nowadays. And now with Jacob Blake, it's somewhat becoming like traumatizing. Like it's affecting me in a way, because me as a black man, like now I am feeling unsafe sometimes when I am going out and I am about with people and with people that don't even look like me. I can for some parts of my life there have been instances where I would be the only black person in the room or in the area, and there's still instances where that happened now. And before I was cool, I was like, it really doesn't matter. But as these things started to come up and I started seeing people talk about these issues and seeing more and more people like me being killed and how people actually feel about black people, I've become more weary of being in those environments and being just out and even getting pulled over by the cops. I've become more scared about that, and it's just not right. I shouldn't have to feel that way. I shouldn't have to feel that way at all. It makes no sense how there are people in this world who are protected, white people that are protected from this, because as we seeing now with the 17-year-old kid who went into the protest in Kenosha and shot and killed 2 people and injured others. There's videos you see circulating around the internet of him being thanked by the cops and them thanking the militia that has been formed by those people that come up there with their assault rifles to counter protest the people that are protesting an unarmed person being shot, an unarmed black man being shot at that. It makes me think are we just does this country just not look at us as equal? I know, obviously I know the answer to that. No, they don't. They don't look at people that look like me. They don't look at black people as equal, any other minorities as equal to them. And it's just baffling to me. I wish you can just take the race out of it and just look at it from this scope. how can you just sit there and justify a person being shot 7 times in his back with his back turned? Like, how can you justify that? How can you justify George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, the officer, staying on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? How can you justify that? How can you justify George Zimmerman following and stalking a kid that whipped his ass after he found out he was stalking him, but was later killed by him? How can you justify that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, and I'm not one of those people that like try to force ideals on people, because I understand like not everybody's gonna agree on everything. Like, I have friends that are Republicans, I have friends that are Democrats, socialists. Like, I know these people. Like, everybody's gonna have different opinions. But when it comes to the opinions about like this type of matter, like, human rights are not an opinion type of ordeal. Like, you can't have an opinion on human rights. Like, I get upset when people of the right will say that Black Lives Matter is a political movement. I'm seeing people now that I even went to high school with talking about that why you shouldn't support Black Lives Matter and why all this looting and like it's just nonsense. This nonsense that they talking about. Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, how can you be so ignorant? How can you be so hateful of just people like that just want to be equal, just want to have equal rights? Like, there's a message that's being pushed around that, oh, Black Lives Matter just want to completely override the government and just make it about themselves. Like, no, like, people somehow in this, the message of Black Lives Matter has gotten lost. The message is just purely, we just want equal rights and just be treated as equal citizens. We don't want to be killed mercilessly for no reason or just for petty crimes. Like, is that too much to ask? Like, is that literally just too much to ask? There is footage. You can just look this up on your own. There's plenty of videos of white people like completely disrespecting cops or even brandishing guns, running away from cops, but they're not shot. They're not killed. They don't get put on the ground and have a knee to the neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That doesn't happen to them. But when it's a black man, that type of luxury of, like, calmly reprimanding them and trying to be calm, even when there is a gun pointed in their face, like that, they don't really do that. They straight up kill, regardless. Like for the Philando Castile case, like, people talk about, they should just follow the cop's order. If you look at that video, he was following the cop's order. He told the cop that he had a registered weapon in the car and he's reaching for his wallet. So while reaching for his wallet, the police officer then proceeded to shoot this man inside of his car 8 times in front of his wife. And I think his daughter was in the back seat. So people can argue, say, well, they should listen to the cops. Even when we do what the cops ask, we are still met with violence. We are still met with force. Like, how? Like, what else can we, like, what are we is on the police officers? And then people talk about, like, well, defund the police. People just want to get rid of police officers. Like, no. If you look at city budgets, most of the city budget goes to police officers. Okay. Now, I would be okay with that fact if the money was properly allocated into training these police officers to be better cops and so they can better reprimand people and not resort to just killing them just because they are afraid. Like, yes, the money, city budgets, I think this should go more towards, it should be equally allocated out, and specifically towards the education system, because when you look at the problem, if you have a better education system and these people are taught better, then you wouldn't have as much of these problems. If you look at other countries and their education systems and how the requirements to become a police officer is way higher than this for the American police. So those cops are more trained. They are more intelligent. They are more aware and more capable of handling situations without using violence and just pulling out a gun and killing somebody just because they are afraid. And we are taught that when you hear people say that black people are the enemy, or that they fear us when we walk around in hoodies or at nighttime or with bigger or in gangs and stuff. But how are we the focal point of fear when we are constantly killed and brutalized? And it's happened so much that I somewhat became desensitized to it and seeing it on the internet. Like I haven't even seen the full video of this Jacob Blake shooting. I haven't because I'm tired. I really am. I'm getting to the point where I'm just tired of seeing it because it's traumatizing to me. Like I keep thinking like, dang, that could be me one day. Like it could be somebody that I know. Like, and the fact that it happened in my hometown with Breonna Taylor, and that there are people who are still protesting in the street and still met with violent force, and it bothers me. It literally bothers me, and I can't even come up with the words to describe right now because I am just in awe. I'm in shock, and I'm hurt. I really am hurt, and I'm hurt by people really try to make this a political thing, try to make Black Lives Matter a political thing. Like it's not. Like what's so hard about just having equal rights? Like I can understand. That's why I say I don't have no problem with my friends that are Republicans or any type of like party or whatever, because I consider myself a little moderate because I agree with some ideas from both sides. How can you? I can understand you can argue about tax cuts. You can argue that money should be going in here, blah blah blah. You can argue about that. But when it comes to a person's life, how can you sit there and say that like that Black Lives Matter is a political movement when really all we just trying to do is just prove and let y'all know that our lives matter just as much as you are. Like we just want to be treated the same as white people would get treated. Like we just want to be like all minorities want to just be treated equal. Like everybody just wanted to have equal rights. No matter if you're black, no matter if you're Asian, no matter if you're gay, no matter if you're bi, no matter if you're trans. Like it don't like everybody just wants equal rights. Like what is so hard about that? And like I understand people might have biases or they don't understand, but why not try to learn? Why not try to understand and overcome those like I won't even call them deficiencies, like just overcome those biases in your head. Like we all are not born perfect. Nobody's perfect at all. I understand nobody's perfect. Not everybody's gonna understand everything straight out the gate. But that's what school is for. That's what we are here to do, like to just constantly grow and learn every single day. So if you don't understand what Black Lives Matter is, why don't you take the time to learn? Why don't you take the time to understand why black people don't feel safe around cops? Why don't you take the time to understand why women feel unsafe sometimes when they walk in the street? Why don't you take some time to understand when trans people just are getting murdered? Like why don't people just take the time to understand? Like I have some things to work on myself, and I try to understand things. Like why don't people just at least try? Just try to understand. Like just try to understand that we are not looking to just take over this world. Like I don't know what those type of people are seeing on their social media feeds. That's another thing I always think about. Is like I'm always intrigued by like what are these people seeing on their social medias, on their feeds. They're making them think this way because that's where a lot of their thinking is coming from. There's a lot of the rhetoric that they are talking about is coming from. Because if you think about it, you look at the way your social media is put out, an algorithm that is set for you. It's usually based off your likes, your interests, and things that are similar to things that you like to do. So I'm wondering what are these people seeing on their feeds that make them like talk about the situation. Like how can they turn the situation into something that like, well, he deserved to be shot in the back 7 times? Really? When really Dylan Roof, a man who went into a church and murdered people, was taken into custody calmly, and even taken to McDonald's because he was hungry. And yet, black people are the fear of this nation, but yet most domestic terrorist acts are done by white people. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. Like, all these school shootings, like you want to talk about how you are wanting to protect your family and you're afraid for your children. Look at people of your same color. Like, I'm not trying to make this all about like just talking bad about white people, but just understand that black people are really not the problem here. We're really not. Like, you look at some of the most heinous acts in this country. Who are at the hands of it? Like, who is doing these things? Who? It ain't black people. I tell you that. It wasn't black people that shot up those people at the church in North Carolina like Dylan Roof did. It wasn't black people that was a Unabomber in Oklahoma. It wasn't them. It wasn't people that was doing it wasn't black people that was a shooting at Sandy Roof or that. I'm like, it's just so many. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that school. I'm sorry, but like it just goes to show you how are we still looked upon as the fear of this nation? How is it that we continuously get killed and these police officers are not properly trained and not calmly de-escalating the situation and working through this? Like, how? Like, why is it that it always results to violence with the gun and somebody eventually being shot to death or being paralyzed in Jacob Blake's case? Like, there are plenty of other types of things that these officers can use that is on the utility belt that doesn't result in somebody dying. Like a taser, you can tase somebody. You can tase somebody. Like, why don't you just do that? Like why? Like I just don't understand. Or even when like somebody gets pulled over, why is it that when a black person gets pulled over that there is more cops brought to the scene or they feel like they needs to be more backup? Like, why are we constantly seen as the fear of this country? Why? I just don't understand it. And it's creating fear for me. Like, I'm the one that is fearful. It's like we're treated like animals. You know, they tell you not to go mess with bears because bears are scary. Bears going to kill you. A bear's going to, you come around there, it's going to claw you and eat you and drag you back to its little den or whatever. But in reality, birds are doing their own thing. They just as scared of you as you are of them. Any animal is. Because they don't they like, what is this thing? Like, why are you in my area? Especially a bird. A bird is very territorial. So if you come around a bear's territory, best believe your ass is, especially with their cubs around. I know you've seen The Revenant. If you haven't seen The Revenant, you look it up. Or you look up the story. And you see why you don't go mess with a bear, especially when around their cubs. And it's just like, I just don't understand. And I want to talk about this because like I said, this happened on Sunday, but this is Thursday, and it's being talked about more and more, especially as yesterday, games were boycotted in the NBA, MLS, WNBA, and some MLB games were boycotted as well. Some games are being scheduled to be boycotted today, just to take a stand, and for those athletes to do that, to try to bring awareness and try to bring change, because they black men too. And the fear is even worse for like bigger black men, because apparently those people that are scaring these police officers or scaring white people away and making them feel like that they are the endangerment of this nation. Like, I just don't understand. And I applaud these athletes taking their stance on these issues and using that platform. I hope they can find a balance and be able to play, not because I want to see them play, because I know that with their platforms and with them playing on these stages, it amplifies whatever they say tenfold. So I hope that they can find the balance to still bring awareness to these issues and still be able to perform at the same time. And it's just sickening to me. I don't know, because I don't even know what to do at this point. Like, you see what I have behind me, it's like, how many more? How many more killings or shootings am I going to see of people that look like me at the hands of people that are supposed to protect me? And as a person, as a member of the armed services in the army, sometimes I feel fortunate that I even have a veteran's license plate on my car, because sometimes that even saves me from like a police officer. And I just wonder, like, what if I don't have that? What if I don't have a veteran license plate? What if I'm like with somebody that, the police officer just knows that I just don't know what to say anymore. I'm just worried. I just hope that through change, and I hope through time, that we are able to. I know it's not gonna happen immediately. I know tomorrow is not gonna happen. I just hope that sometime soon that we can make change and see change, so that people that look like me, that are black, African American, or other minorities, can feel safe in this country. I encourage everybody to vote. I know some people say that vote's not going to do nothing, because, when we face with the candidates we have, it doesn't look as good, but we know what side is going to be at least a better option for minorities and African Americans specifically compared to what we have right now. I urge people to vote. I urge people to just continue to just push this forward, and we push for a better, to just reform the police system and judicial system in general. Like, I just hope that, like, I'm not saying dismantle them, get rid of them. I'm saying that there's just better training. There's a better understanding with these cops when it comes to handling situation with African Americans specifically, and to just not resort to just killing them. I just hope that we can come to that way, and that we can just look at people as people, regardless of color, regardless of height, size, weight. Like, I just hope that we all just look at each other as equal, and be able to, and the police officers be able to just handle a situation without killing a black man. I'm just hoping that we can come to that point someday. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'm done.